can't believe I did it. I can't believe I bought the wrong electric pickup truck. Because the day after I purchased my F-150 Lightning, Tesla released the long range rear wheel drive Cybertruck at a much cheaper price. I made a mistake. Or did I? Let's break it down and take a look at the differences between what I had originally ordered almost 5 years ago versus what I ended up with right behind me. Let's break it down. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tech Motoring Between the EVs, or kind of lacking one EV at the moment, but no big deal there. First off, I wanted to thank all of you very much for your responses and your comments in last week's video about me contemplating my decisions between the F-150 Lightning and my originally chosen Rivian R1T. And I got a lot of fantastic comments and I appreciate all of them. And I ended up going with, if you can't see it behind me, the F-150 Lightning Flash. Now we'll get more into that in a future video, but what I first wanted to do was thank all of you out there for watching the video, commenting on the video, and giving me some feedback on my thoughts there, and I think we went in the right direction. Now we'll talk about something else that came up recently right after buying this, and we'll talk about what that means to me and how I actually kind of feel now that I've already purchased one. So now that we are a proud owner of a 2025 F-150 Lightning Flash trim, we're gonna have a ton of fun with this. In fact, by the time you watch this video, we're gonna be already on a road trip with this vehicle. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel for that and hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Of course, I'd like to thank all of you who are already subscribed, like I do with all these videos. Thank you so much for subscribing. And of course, if you are a member of the channel where you pay a small fee every month to help support the channel, if you're interested, hit that join button down below. But thank you very much to all of my members as well. Anyway, let's dive into the purpose of this video, which is, did I make a mistake buying the F-150 Lightning over the Rivian R1T? Once again, we're going to bring that up a little bit, and the newly released Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, and was this the right decision that I made? So let's break it down first. So shortly after I released the video, I had already obviously had plans of looking at this truck. I had already looked at it, and then I had made the video, and then I kind of wanted some feedback, but I was pretty sure which way I wanted to go. And pretty much all of you in the comments on that video had agreed that the F-150 is probably the better solution for me based on my needs and my wants and financial things as well. You know, keep in mind, I'm not one of these big YouTubers that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and so really nothing from this channel is going to buying that truck. It's pretty much coming out of my pocket and my, income as a full-time employee at a job. So really had to think from that standpoint as well, and not just from a content creator standpoint. And so I appreciate everybody giving me those comments, giving me that feedback, and I had pretty much had set my sights on this truck anyway. And that was pretty much what happened. So the day after I released that video, a lot of people watched it, gave me comments, and I was at the dealership picking up the F-150 Lightning because I knew it was the right decision. Now in that video, I think I remember saying something about the Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, what was it again? A solid almost 4 months into this year, and there has been zero peeps about that happening, so I do not think that the Cybertruck is going to be something that I am going to want. That's right, that's what I said. Something about the Cybertruck rear-wheel drive probably not coming out this year, considering they said it was going to, but it's almost 4 months into the year. Yeah, that whole thing. So ironically, literally the day after I picked up my F-150 Lightning, not only did Rivian increase the price of their R1T dual motor by $1,000 due to the recent tariff market that's going on right now, which was the one I was going to buy. So already the version of the Rivian that I was going to purchase towards the end of this year is now already increased by $1,000. So that's one reason why I'm happy about picking up the F-150, because I already saved myself $1,000 there. But would you believe it that the day after I buy my F-150, Tesla releases the Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, single motor, long range, whatever you want to call it. So I was looking at the specs of the Cybertruck, because I was really sold on the Cybertruck a few years ago. I thought it was really cool. I really wanted it, but you know, I was also looking at a $40,000 base model and potentially like a $60,000 next step up. Whereas once the Cybertruck came out, that number from $40,000 went to, well, $100,000 for the dual motor, which then came $80,000 after the Foundation series or whatever they call them. And then they said in 2025, the rear-wheel drive single motor will come out and it will be about $61,000. That is what they anticipated the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck to be. So lo and behold, last night I see my phone and I see that Tesla has released the Cybertruck for $62,500. Or is it $62,500? It's $62,500 after the federal tax credit, which means that the Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive was not $61,000, it's actually $70,000, and only if you qualify for the $7,500 federal tax rebate brings it down to $62,500. Now, $62,500 is a pretty good deal for a Cybertruck until you hear exactly what's in it. And let's dive into that real quick. So let's do a quick comparison of the Tesla Cybertruck versus what I picked up, our F-150 Lightning, and see some of the things that I was expecting to get in the Cybertruck that I don't necessarily get with the rear-wheel drive. And let's talk about what I get in the F-150 for comparison. Now, to give you an idea as far as apples to apples in pricing here, the federal tax rebate on the Cybertruck brings it down to $62,500. And I'm not releasing the pricing of what I paid for that yet. That will be in our initial video that I release when I pick up the truck. But I'm going to tell you that it is slightly lower than $62,500 is what I paid for that F-150 Lightning. So let's dive in and talk about the differences that the Cybertruck has in the base model now versus what I got in the F-150. All right, well, the Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, though they're classifying this as the long range because it does have the longest range of the three trims now. So it is showing an estimated range of 350 miles, which is a little bit greater than the 325 in the all-wheel drive, the dual motor, or the tri-motor Cyber Beast, which is 320 miles of range. So you do get quite a bit more range. It also shows that a towing of about 7,500 pounds because it's a single motor, doesn't have as much power. So they are limiting the towing to 7,500 pounds versus 11,000 pounds for the higher Cybertruck trims. So just in comparison, the F-150 behind me has a towing rating of about 10,000 pounds. So just that alone gives you an extra 2,500 pounds by going with the F-150 Lightning in this particular circumstance. The next thing up is the payload. So they claim the payload as 2,006 pounds with the Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, which is down from the 2,500 on the middle trim, the all-wheel drive, and the Cyber Beast is 2,271. And if you compare that to the F-150 Lightning, which I think is just below 2,000 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. So we do have a slightly less payload than the F-150, but seems pretty negligible when you compare them. Now, compared to the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, that does have quite a significant more payload. The powertrain, once again, is a single motor rear-wheel drive and a mechanical rear locking differential. Of course, you don't have a front differential in the single motor Cybertruck because it's a single motor on the rear axle. The front axle has no motor, therefore you don't have any type of differential up there to lock. So it's a single motor, single rear locking differential. That could be a benefit to some as well with the all-wheel drive package. And then comparing this to the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, it actually is front and rear locking differentials. 0 to 60 time, I don't really find this to be very important. Honestly, I mean, we're talking a 0 to 60 time is 6.2 seconds with the single motor, 4.1 seconds with the dual motor. And so I know that the F-150 Lightning 0 to 60 is somewhere around 4 seconds or so. So compared to the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, it is basically about the same. Once again, this is not really something that you're expecting in a pickup truck. You're not really expecting 0 to 60 times in a pickup truck, in my opinion. I don't really think that's very necessary. But for some people, you know, you want to have performance and a pickup truck, I guess I can understand that. But for my particular circumstance, I didn't really need to be going fast 0 to 60. Just as long as I could get up to the speed of traffic, you know, safely. That's really all I cared about. All right, of course, dropping down to the interior side now. With the interior, you get just the textile like cloth seats in the Tesla Cybertruck, the base model, whereas in the all-wheel drive, you get the premium interior. We get the Active X interior in that, which I guess is sort of like a vegan leather or maybe closer to a vinyl. So that is, you know, what I would consider closer to like a premium interior, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm sure some people will have a comment about that. Some people just love leather and that's the way they want to go. Of course, you get the front heated seats in the base model Cybertruck. The all-wheel drive, you get front and rear heated seats. So that's really cool. The Lightning actually only has front heated seats in this particular trim. We also see that the all-wheel drive Cybertruck gets front ventilated seats. That's something I don't have in the F-150 Lightning, and I kind of wish I did, but I really didn't want to pay more for the Lariat. I think the Lariat was just way too expensive for what I needed. And we can see they took out the rear screen on the long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck. So that's another thing that you'll be missing as well. Not that I would ever benefit from the rear screen, because I'm really never in the back seat of my own vehicle. And since we don't have kids, they're not really going to benefit from it either. So hey, to each their own. Some people want that, some people need that, and that's understandable, but it's something that they're missing out of the base model Cybertruck now. But I don't got it in my F-150 anyway, so what's the difference? We could talk about the displays. Once again, the first row is an 18.5-inch display. It's plenty big. This one you get a horizontal display, that one you get a vertical display. Whatever suits your needs, they both work perfectly fine. So I'm not going to go big into the display size because they're a different shape anyway. So really it all depends on what's more comfortable for you and what you would prefer. We can see that the audio, they cut down the audio from the 15 speakers with active noise cancellation in the all-wheel drive Cybertruck to just 7 speakers in the long range. So quite a bit of a decrease, especially without that active noise cancellation, because that really is a nice feature, especially when you're on the highway doing pretty high rates of speeds. You really do want that noise cancellation. It does help mitigate some of that road noise and just that wind noise outside the truck that's, you know, hitting the truck. So I don't know how loud this truck is going to be considering it doesn't have that noise cancellation. And I don't believe we have any of those fanciness in the F-150 anyway. So once again, we're not really missing out on anything. And this thing's pretty quiet on the highway. I've taken it on the highway once and it's pretty quiet, but it's still a truck. So you still feel a lot more of that wind noise and a little bit of that tire noise as well. So maybe nothing really winning in that category, but the speakers definitely, I think this with the Bang & Olufsen system, I think is probably a much better system than this Tesla 7 speaker system. However, Tesla is really good at tuning their audio. Like this Model 3 here, this does have a premium sound system in it since this is the Performance, and it is a really good system in these cars. They sound really, really nice. So maybe that speaker system would be better than what I have in the F-150, but once again, unless you're an audiophile, you're probably really not going to notice much of a difference. All right, let's talk about the exterior and bed. So one of the biggest, coolest things about the Cybertruck is that tonneau cover that rolls up and hides out of sight. I think that is a really cool thing. And the fact that it's made out of like a metal, it's really cool because it's rugged. You could stand on it. It's very tough, so people can't just like, you know, slice through a leather cover or whatever that you might have and just get into it. So it's really cool and really safe, and I think that's a really awesome, cool part of the Cybertruck. But you don't get that on the base model one. So if you do get the long-range Cybertruck, you're missing that. You have to get the soft tonneau cover, and I guess there's no way to upgrade to the vault bed with the actual retractable tonneau cover. It doesn't seem to have that as an option, maybe later on down the road, but I feel like considering how that has to go into the back of the bed there, that might be something that really has to be factory installed. But interesting either way that they are not going to give you that tonneau cover on that. Not that I got a tonneau cover with this either. It's something I'm going to eventually have to buy for the F-150 Lightning anyway. All right, so one of the things they also get is the headlights without signature lamps. So that's another thing that you lose on the long range versus the all-wheel drive. The standard bed lamps versus the premium bed lamps, I mean, I don't know if that's really much of a difference. Standard tail lamps versus the premium tail lamps, I guess you lose the actual light bar in the back of the Cybertruck, which is a little bit upsetting, but hey, you know, is what it is. And the L-tracks, I guess you don't get the L-tracks in the bed, which is a pretty cool system. Some people might like that L-track system in the bed. You know, once again, to each their own. If that's something that's important to you, then go for it. If not, maybe the standard range is good. Here is what really got me. So the Cybertruck, which is originally supposed to be advertised as, you know, you could use it as a work truck. Go out to your site, plug in your tools. You could run your tools, you could charge your batteries and run your saws and whatever you need to do on this work site. You can do that with your Tesla Cybertruck. Well, if you get the long range base model now, you don't get the outlets in the bed, you don't get the outlets in the cabin. I think that's all the outlets. Huh, really weird. However, in the F-150 Lightning behind me, we actually have not only 120 volt outlets, but we also have a 240 volt outlet, and there is 2 in the cabin, 4 in the front, and 4 in the bed. Plenty of power to be able to do whatever you need to do, regardless of where you are in the truck. So I think that's really, really cool as well. Of course, if you bump up to the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, you'll get some of those back, but of course it's only 220 volts in the bed, 240, and in the cabin you only get 2 of the 120 volts. So once again, nothing in the front on the Cybertruck, which I think was a real miss, but I don't know, no big deal, I guess. You know, to each their own. Once again, if you need them, great. If not. And now here's the biggest thing that really bothered me about the Cybertruck is the fact that they took away the air suspension. Now, air suspension is really expensive, so I understand why they cut it out. But I feel like that's one of the biggest things about the truck is the air suspension. Like, I really, really liked the air suspension. That was one of the reasons why I chose the Rivian initially, was because the air suspension is a really cool feature to me, and I really enjoy having the ability to just pump up the truck when you need it, lower it down when you want to. That's a really cool feature to me. And so it's a little upsetting to see that they got rid of the air suspension in this vehicle. They just put the steel springs back in. And yeah, I guess so. You're going to be missing out on those features as well, being a long-range Cybertruck owner. So, oh well, I guess it is what it is at that point. But that's pretty much all the differences that I can see here on the Tesla website. Of course, if you could think of anything else, you could throw them down in the comments below. I'd love to take a look at what else you might have come across on the internet about the Tesla Cybertruck rear-wheel drive long range. Now, do I have any regrets buying the F-150 versus waiting to get the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck? Now that I see it, absolutely not. I think if you own the pickup truck, a lot of it is, well, it has to be four-wheel drive. And that was one of the things that I was a little bit skeptical about getting the rear-wheel drive single-motor Cybertruck, was like, everybody kind of expects it to be all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Nobody really expects it to be just a rear-wheel drive pickup truck. Now, I used to own, way back in the day, a 92 Chevy pickup that was just rear-wheel drive, but that was really cool because it was slammed down. It was designed to look really, really cool because it was a rear-wheel drive pickup truck. But I think with the Cybertruck, a lot of people expect it to be good at off-roading and good at hill climbing, and you could go, you know, in snow real easily with it. And I think the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck is a little bit of a miss in my opinion. What I would have rather seen them do is lower the price of the all-wheel drive down and the Cyber Beast down as well, and then just have a decently affordable all-wheel drive version as opposed to the rear-wheel drive, which is what I thought they were going to do this whole time. But instead they brought out the rear-wheel drive more expensive than what they had initially said the second time around, when they said it was supposed to be 61, and now it's technically 70. And of course, once again, federal tax credit gets you down to 62.5, but that's still more than what they initially said a little over a year ago when the Cybertruck was released. So, not sure what's going on in that camp. And if you are interested in buying a Cybertruck, I'm curious to hear what you think. Are you going to go with a rear-wheel drive? Are you going to go with the all-wheel drive? What's your thoughts behind that? And of course, on the other hand, I want to also thank all of you again for giving me the motivation and I think we made a pretty good decision, don't you? And I know this channel is very focused on our Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is why I probably have a lot of Ford enthusiasts on this channel following more than, like, let's say the Tesla enthusiasts. So that's probably why a lot of you had said go with the Lightning versus the Tesla Cybertruck or the Rivian R1T or whatever the case may be. And so I kind of understand that a lot more people were probably more towards the F-150 anyway, just because of the content that I've released in the past, and that is how you found me. And so either way, I still think we made the right decision, and I wanted to thank all of you again for letting me know what your opinion was on the subject. Anyway, that's about all I have for today's episode. Once again, thanks very much for watching today's episode. And of course, keep tuned to the channel for some F-150 Lightning videos coming out real soon. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. And remember, welcome to the future. Welcome to Tech Motoring. We'll see you soon.